Good morning and welcome to the garden for our final garden tour of this garden. So it is mid-July. It is actually July 19th. So this is what the garden is looking like right now, mid-July, in all of its glory. There are a few things that I have transplanted to move, but a lot of the stuff is still in the ground. So I wanted to do one last look here of this garden before we move. It will be moving 1 week from the day this video posts. So that is very exciting. It's also gonna be a lot of work, but it'll be awesome when it's done. And I will give you a tour again once it is moved, just to kind of show you how I haphazardly kind of throw things together. So let's get started on this very last full garden tour of this garden. So right by the gate we have the lavender, and it is still just absolutely massive. I'm going to be cutting this down pretty severely to move it because it's huge. And it also needs to be trimmed, so I'm gonna go ahead and trim that before I move. Open the gate. The sunflowers are looking majestic and beautiful. These are staying. I don't have any way to move these, and they wouldn't survive anyway, so these are staying. So I do have a teddy bear sunflower in here that's bloomed. That little guy, he's not all the way bloomed yet, but he's getting there, and there's a bunch more heads on here too. The peppers over here are doing really well, actually. I have harvested some shishitos and fried those up in a skillet, and they were delicious. We have, let me see if I can remember all the varieties I have in this cluster. We have shishito, Anaheim, which I think is these, Etuda, which I think is this right here, some of the Keystone resistant giant bells. I think those are in the back. Chocolate Beauties are over here, I know that for sure. And then we have one Craig's Grande jalapeno, which I think is this one. And then these three are the lemon spice jalapeno from Baker Creek. So this is all the peppers. They all look pretty good. I have tons of peppers on my plants. Like, these are the Anaheims. There's a lot of these hanging out. The Etudas, there's a few of those, not a ton. I did lose one of those plants. And then the Chocolate Beauties, one of these, yeah, this plant has 3 pretty good sized peppers on it already, so that's awesome. The strawberries, you will note, are not in the ground. They are in barrels. Some of them are looking a little rough, I will admit, but I think they're gonna pull through for the most part. They'll fill these back out super fast, so I'm not real concerned about losing some. This is only a third of them. The other 2 barrels are right there and right there. That one probably looks the best of the 3. So this tower planter here looks beautiful. This is a Shockwave coconut petunia, and it is just so precious and just full of blooms. I just love it. And then we have some nasturtiums in here that haven't bloomed at all. There's some celosia and some other types of petunias in here as well. There's a marigold over here too, like a little one, and some basil, some purple opal basil. So overall, I am very happy with this planter this year. It actually looks nice, and it has stayed alive. I think because of all the rain we've had, it has helped it stay watered, because the biggest issue I had with this last year was keeping it watered. So this year it looks pretty good. All right, now let's go down in here. I'll give you one last good shot of this cattle panel before I rip everything off of it. So this has pole beans and cucumbers on it right now. We have rattlesnake pole beans and purple potted pole beans. These plants are doing great. I have harvested so many beans off of these. I'm gonna do probably one more big harvest, because there are some beans that are about, you know, yay big, that will grow quite a lot in the next couple days. So I will let those grow, and then I will do one more big harvest, and then I'm gonna pull these plants out so I can move these cattle panels. And I will replant them after I get the panels moved. So over here I have my cucumbers. This is the muncher cucumber. I don't know if there's any on here or not. Oh, there are. There's a couple on here actually. Oh, this one's weird. So those could be picked. This is the green dragon burpless, and there's one, that one's not super big. There's another one down here, and these will get pretty good size in the next few days. I may not pull these out until later in the week. And then this is our straight 8 cucumber, which is a new variety for me this year. And there's a couple pretty decent sized ones on here as well. So I may pick those today or tomorrow and pull that plant out. So let's go back down here. In the middle here we have our early girl bushed terminate tomato. There's a ton of red happening in here. I've been coming out and picking tomatoes off of this pretty regularly, which is awesome. It is about at the end of its life, obviously. So yeah. We do have some basil in here, some purple opal, and this is lettuce leaf basil. I've actually been harvesting these basils to use in arrangements in the house, like to make the house look nice when people come to look at it. I've used this more for that this year than I have like for eating and cooking with. And then the kale is pretty much at the end of its life cycle. I'm going to be pulling this out for sure. I did come out and do one more big harvest of it, but it's pretty much done. So these will be coming out. All these weeds, I have so many, like look at all of this. This all needs to be taken care of also. So yes, I have quite a lot of work ahead of me. So let's turn back around and go look at the tomatoes. So we have our sun sugar cherry tomato plant, and I have been picking cherry tomatoes off of this pretty regularly. There's a few that are just starting to turn. These are absolutely delicious. And then the black cherry, I've picked a few off this as well, and there's a couple more clutches of tomatoes on here. This is the blonde girl cherry that I actually grew last year, and it is starting to set fruit finally. This plant was a volunteer in Katie's garden that I actually stole and planted over here, and it is starting to make tomatoes. This is the Isis candy cherry, and it has some disease. I need to cut that off, but it looks pretty good. I have not had any of these yet. They have not ripened yet, but there's quite a few on there. This one is the carbon, and I will tell you that all of my tomato plants are quite small right now because they are in these grow bags. I am going to be putting them back in the ground after I move, so they should take off after that. This is a Firebird, quite a few on that. This is a Chianti Rose, and I noticed this tomato is starting to blush. It has a huge crack in it, so I may not even get to enjoy that one, but it is starting to blush. I don't know what most of these are. They have, okay, this is a Kellogg's breakfast. I had to look at the plant marker. This plant looks really healthy, which is good. That makes me happy. This is an Aunt Ruby's German green. There is one big tomato on here right now, and that's pretty much it. It is very cracked. This is a white Tomasol, and I think that one may be blushing. It looks much brighter and whiter than it did. This is a pink Brandywine. There's a few on here. This is an Amana orange. This plant looks pretty good. There's a few little yellow leaves down there, but not too bad. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is the pink Brandywine. Well, what is this? Oh, this is delicious. Oh, okay, so this is delicious. This is Amana orange. This is pink Brandywine. Okay. I'm getting myself all confused here. This is my Paul Robeson, and it does not look very good at all. I have had 2 tomatoes off of this though, and they are delicious. And then my San Marzano looks really not great. It does have some tomatoes on it though, so I'm hopeful that it'll pull through after it gets back in the ground. So that is the in-ground garden. I'm gonna take you over and look at the beds, the raised garden beds, and that will conclude the very last garden tour of this garden. I have to get out of the jungle here with the sunflowers. They are majestic and beautiful, but they were supposed to be dwarfs, and those are the biggest dwarfs I've ever seen. So yes, so these beds over here, I did actually pull my onions out yesterday. They look great. I am going to be chopping those up and freezing them probably today, like this evening, and getting those put in the freezer. I don't have time to cure them before we move, so I'm just gonna chop them and freeze them, and they'll be just as good that way. So let's take a look at these beds. So first, look at this planter here. This thing is absolutely just exploded. These Mexican red torch sunflowers are so precious and beautiful, and I just love them. Like, they are just so, they're so cheerful and happy, and I love them. So this bed mostly just has basil in it, just the same types that I have in the garden, but there are some green onions over here that I planted from just the butts of green onions I bought at the store. This is the bed that had the onions in it, and I'm actually going to be planting some lettuce out here at some point. It'll probably be after we move, but I am going to put some lettuce seeds down in here and start my fall lettuce. And then these strawberries over here are really starting to fill this bed out. It really is looking great. They're sending out runners, and it is just filling up, which makes me super happy. The rosemary down here looks pretty good. It's kind of fallen over, I'm not sure why, but yeah, it looks great. I haven't actually used any of this yet, but it's a nice healthy plant, and that makes me super happy. Ignore this needs to be pulled. So that is the garden, the way it looks before we move it. I am very excited to have a new garden space to share with you. I am looking forward to moving it, but also I know it's going to be a lot of work. So I will be sure to show you what I end up with after I get everything moved. Thank you so much for joining me on this garden tour of the last week in this garden. This time has been so bittersweet to me. This is the garden where I started my channel and where I really fell in love with gardening, and I can't wait to see what happens in the new space. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.